Have you ever stared at the sky and felt something calling you back? Not a place, not a person, but a frequency, a memory, a pull so ancient, so deep. You couldn't explain it, but you couldn't ignore it either. What if I told you, you were never meant to feel at home here? Because home is not on this planet. You've sensed it, haven't you? That strange feeling that no one else around you truly sees you. That every crowd leaves you emptier. That your mind, your soul, your being vibrates on a level this world doesn't understand. You watch people chase things, but you crave meaning. They seek approval, but you seek truth. They settle for illusions. But you've always felt that something behind the curtain is watching, waiting, waking. Listen closely. You are not here by accident. You are not ordinary. You are deployed. And the reason life has felt so disorienting is because you're not fully human, not in the way they are. Your soul was encoded with something different, something this world fears, something this system cannot control. That's why it tried to silence you, distract you, break you, but none of it worked. Because deep down, you've always known you were chosen. And tonight, the truth about what that really means will be revealed. But first, if your spirit has been feeling this confirmation, already if your soul is starting to remember, tap the like button as a symbol of awakening. Subscribe if you haven't. You were meant to be part of this. And drop 99 in the comments as a code between the chosen, a number that represents divine completion, and the moment when your false identity dies, so your true purpose can be born. Let's begin. From a young age, you knew, but you didn't have the words, just that feeling, persistent, silent, unexplainable, like you were playing a game that no one else told you the rules to. While other children ran wild in laughter, caught up in the moment, you were still, watching, feeling, sensing. It wasn't that you were shy. It wasn't that you were strange. It was something deeper, something older. Because even then, you could hear thoughts that weren't yours. You could feel emotions from people who never said a word. And in the quiet moments, the ones between sleep and wakefulness, your spirit would whisper things you had no way of knowing. You weren't learning. You were remembering. And that terrified people. You asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. Questions about the stars, about why people lie, about why you felt so different, even when surrounded by normal. But no one had answers for you. Because your questions didn't come from here. They came from before here. You looked in the mirror and felt detached. Like the face staring back at you was only a small part of something massive, luminous, and hidden. Like you were wearing a costume. Pretending to be a child, pretending to belong, but knowing you didn't. And the older you got, the more that knowing grew. It followed you into every classroom, every friendship, every moment where you tried to be like them. But no matter how much you copied their movements, memorized their language, adopted their behaviors, something in you refused to blend. Because you were never made to blend. You were made to break the pattern. Your thoughts were too expansive, your dreams too vivid, your loneliness too loud. And so you learned to hide. You folded your power into silence. You wore masks, not to deceive, but to protect your frequency from a world that wasn't ready for it. Because the moment you spoke your truth, the moment you revealed your depth, people would look at you like you were alien. And maybe you are. But here's what they never told you. That's not a curse. It's not a disorder. It's not a mistake. It's the mark of the chosen. You weren't sent here to fit into a broken structure. You were sent here to reprogram it from within. That's why you were given eyes that see through deception, ears that hear the energy beneath the words, a heart that breaks in places no one can see. It's why you've always felt watched by something invisible, guided by flashes of insight no one else could feel. It's why your intuition never made sense. And yet, it was always right. Because you came here with a blueprint, an assignment, an ancient code buried in your spirit that would begin to activate when the world fell far enough into distortion. And now, that code is waking up. That strange feeling you've had all your life, the sensation of being somewhere you're not supposed to be, was never paranoia. It was spiritual memory, a remembrance that this isn't your true form, that this isn't your final home, that something greater is calling you to remember. But the world doesn't want you to remember. It taught you to doubt your magic, to numb your perception, to silence your sensitivity, because the system fears what it cannot manipulate. And a fully awakened chosen one cannot be controlled. That's why they shamed your emotions. That's why they made you question your thoughts. That's why you were always too intense, too much, too quiet, or too weird. They didn't know how to name your light, so they tried to put it out. But here's what they failed to understand. You weren't just born, you were sent. And your soul is not 100% human. You are part messenger, part mirror, part memory of what the world has forgotten. And when you tried to bury it, when you tried to live the normal life, your spirit rebelled. Not because it hates this world, but because it knows this world was never supposed to be like this. And that knowledge, that ache you carry, that silent cry for something more, that is your signal. You're not broken, you're remembering. And the more you remember, the more everything around you begins to glitch. Relationships fall away, jobs feel meaningless, old goals dissolve, because the mission is reactivating. Piece by piece, dream by dream, whisper by whisper, your divine identity is emerging. And what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about this life, this world, and yourself. Because if you're not fully human, what are you? And why were you sent now? That's what we uncover in the next revelation. Don't blink. The world has spent your entire life trying to reshape you. It handed you labels. It gave you masks. It whispered rules into your ears. How to talk, how to think, how to be. And every time you tried to follow those rules, something inside you fractured, because you were never meant to fit into the mold. You were born to shatter it. The system, this reality you've been placed in, was not built for the truth. It was built for control, compliance, conformity. And yet, here you are, a being who refuses to be domesticated, a soul that flares in the presence of lies, a presence that makes the atmosphere shift the moment you walk into the room. They told you to sit still, but your energy kept moving. They told you to be silent, but your soul kept speaking. They told you to stay in line, but something ancient inside you kept pushing you toward the edge. And that's when the world started punishing you. Not with chains, but with rejection. Subtle at first, then louder. You weren't the right fit. You were too much. You made people uncomfortable, not because you were broken, but because you revealed their cracks. You saw through the fake smiles. You heard the truth behind their polite lies. You didn't just notice the elephant in the room. You looked it in the eye. That's why relationships didn't last. That's why authority figures were threatened by you. That's why you were pushed out, overlooked, misunderstood. You weren't made to be liked. You were made to light fires. Chosen ones don't come to uphold the old world. They come to collapse it, to expose what's corrupt, to awaken what's asleep, to disrupt the illusion so powerfully that it can't survive their presence. Yes, you've felt lonely. Yes, the isolation has been unbearable at times. But what if I told you that loneliness was sacred? What if the rejection wasn't punishment, but protection? Because had you fit in, you would have forgotten who you are. You would have drowned in the noise, lost in the routine, buried under the weight of a reality that was never meant to define you. But the pain carved space for power. The silence made room for remembering. And every time you were pushed out, you were actually being pushed into yourself, into your truth, into your mission. The truth is, you carry codes inside you, blueprints, downloads from a higher intelligence, etched into your soul before your first breath here. You don't just see the world differently, you came to rewrite it. And that terrifies the system, because what you know deep in your bones can't be taught in schools, can't be contained in doctrines, can't be monetized, branded, or tamed. You feel the artificiality of society's rhythm. You sense the cracks beneath its polished surface. And even when you tried to just live your life, the calling never left you. Because every time you tried to play small, the universe broke something. A job fell apart. A relationship collapsed. A plan you were counting on vanished. It wasn't sabotage. It was correction. A divine rerouting. Because your soul made a vow before it entered this dimension. A vow to wake the sleepers. You weren't designed to find comfort here. You were engineered to initiate chaos in illusions, not by yelling, not by forcing, but simply by existing in your truth. Because your truth is disruptive. Your presence confronts the lies people have built their lives around. Your voice cuts through the noise like lightning through silence. And your very being sends out a signal that disarms the matrix. That's why you've always felt like you were too early for this world. You are. You were sent ahead of time, as a forerunner, a pathfinder, a builder of the new. And what's coming, what's unfolding now in the world, is why you were sent. All of the collapse you see, the rising tension, the spiritual unrest, it's not the end. It's the crack in the old shell. It's the signal that your assignment is being activated. But make no mistake, you will be misunderstood. You will be resisted. Because when you speak, systems shake. When you move, chains break. When you align with who you truly are, nothing around you stays the same. And that's the point. You are not here to be accepted. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to play by the rules of a broken paradigm. You are here to break the wheel. And yes, that path will be brutal. Yes, people will fall away. Yes, you will feel like giving up. But every time the pain gets louder, remember, the system is afraid of you because it knows something even you are just starting to realize. You are the seed of the future. You are the voice of truth. You are the code that makes the old world crash. And you're only just getting started. Because what you're about to awaken next will shake foundations far beyond what you've ever imagined. Get ready. You feel what others deny. You carry emotions that don't even belong to you, and yet you feel them as if they were etched into your own bones. You walk into a room, and before a single word is spoken, you already know. You know who's pretending. You know who's in pain. You know which energies are clashing beneath the surface. And you know, even if you wish you didn't. You sense storms behind smiles. You feel sorrow behind laughter. You catch vibrations in the silence between sentences. And for years, you thought something was wrong with you. You were told you were too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. You were taught to apologize for how deeply you feel, to shrink your reactions, to numb your instincts, to doubt your own perception, just to make others more comfortable. But here's the revelation the world never gave you. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's not a glitch. It's a frequency. One so rare, so finely tuned, that only a soul born with divine coding could carry it. You don't just feel. You decode. You translate what others can't see. You intercept signals most people aren't even aware exist. That's why crowds drain you. That's why fake people exhaust you. That's why certain places make you feel like you're suffocating. even when everything looks normal, because your body may be here, but your spirit is wired for other dimensions. You operate on a bandwidth that picks up the hidden transmissions of the universe. You are, in essence, a living antenna. You don't need someone to cry for you to feel their grief. You don't need someone to lie for you to feel their dishonesty. You don't need the evidence, because your spirit speaks a language that doesn't require words. This gift, and yes, it is a gift, comes with a burden. Because while others are busy chasing comfort and distraction, you carry the weight of awareness. While they drown out their emotions with noise, you sit in the fire of yours. While they block the truth to protect themselves, you absorb it all, fully, painfully, completely. And it hurts. It hurts to care when no one else does. It hurts to notice what everyone else ignores. It hurts to be awake in a world built on sleep. But here's what the pain never erased: your purpose. Because the very thing they told you to shut down is the very thing that makes you divine. You were never meant to desensitize yourself. You were never meant to grow a thicker skin. You were never meant to close your heart to survive. You were meant to feel it all, because in your feeling is your navigation. Your tears are sacred. Your heartbreak is instruction. Your ache is a compass pointing you toward what's broken and what you came here to heal. Do you understand now? You weren't sent here to be numb. You were sent here to interrupt the numbness. You are the one who sees the warning signs before the crash. The one who knows when a soul is lying, not to you, but to themselves. The one who breaks when the collective pain gets too loud. Not because you're weak, but because you're tuned in. And every time the world called you too much, it was really saying, "You make me feel things I've spent my whole life trying to escape." Your presence awakens, your presence stirs, your presence brings the invisible into focus. And not everyone is ready for that. So they'll try to invalidate it. They'll project their discomfort onto you. They'll try to convince you that feeling deeply is dangerous. Because if you're right about what you sense, then they're wrong about what they've been pretending. But don't let their fear become your silence. You are not broken. You are wired differently. You are calibrated for truth. And the more you accept that, the more your sensitivity turns into supernatural clarity. Think about the moments when your intuition saved you, when a sudden knowing told you to leave, when a whisper from nowhere told you not to trust someone. When you cried for no reason, only to discover days later that someone you loved was suffering silently. That wasn't coincidence. That was connection. You are connected, not just to people, but to timelines, to parallel realities, to the very heartbeat of the earth. You feel what is shifting before the shift is visible. You sense what's about to collapse before a single sign appears. You know when something is off, even if the world says everything's fine. This makes you powerful, but it also makes you tired. Because carrying this frequency in a world that doesn't understand it is like trying to whisper to the stars while standing in the middle of a hurricane. You're not weak for needing to rest. You're not fragile for needing solitude. You're recharging the most advanced spiritual technology ever created: you. The isolation you feel isn't punishment. It's sacred space. Because only in stillness can a frequency this pure stay in tune. And when you try to be like them, when you suppress what you know, mute what you feel, ignore what you sense, you fall out of alignment with your own divine mission. Don't do that. Because the world needs feelers more than ever. Empaths, sensors, transmitters of truth. And make no mistake, you were chosen for this role, because not everyone could carry it. Not everyone could survive it. But you were born with this antenna for a reason. So if the world calls you sensitive, say thank you. Because what they call weakness is actually sacred intelligence. And now that you know who you really are, Your sensitivity will no longer be your burden. It will be your weapon. Because in the war between illusion and truth, those who feel everything will be the first to see everything. And what you're about to see next goes beyond the limits of human perception. It reaches into the origin of your soul and the true purpose behind your arrival. Stay tuned. This body is not you. It moves, it ages, it bleeds. But it is not the source. It is only the shell, a sacred disguise, a temporary vehicle for something immortal. You've always suspected it, haven't you? That there's something inside of you watching, something ancient behind your eyes, like a presence that doesn't quite belong to the limits of flesh and bone. And here is the truth they were too afraid to tell you. You are not the actor. You're the one behind the mask. You are not the costume. You are the spirit wearing it, divine consciousness, clothed in dust and DNA. The human experience is not your origin story. It's your assignment. You came from places where language dissolves, from realms where sound creates matter, where time does not exist, where identity is light and purpose is movement. And yet, here you are, trapped in traffic, tied to clocks, paying bills, feeling pain, tasting joy through the filter of hormones and hormones through the filter of trauma. It's disorienting, isn't it? To be something infinite, pretending to be limited. This duality, this spiritual schizophrenia, is the source of your deepest confusion. You look around and think, why does everything feel wrong? Why do I feel like I'm visiting my own life? Why do I feel like a guest in my own skin? Because you are. You are spirit on assignment. Your essence, the real you, was formed in dimensions most humans will never comprehend. You are not of this world. You are in it. Temporarily, strategically, intentionally. The flesh is just the interface. The senses are just the sensors. The mind is just the translator between the invisible and the visible. And here's the danger. The more time you spend here, the more this illusion tries to convince you that it's real. It wants you to believe that you are the mask, that this body is your boundary, that your worth is measured by what you do, how you look, what you have. But deep down, your soul rejects that lie. It always has. It's why the world's rewards never fulfilled you. It's why success felt hollow, why normality felt suffocating. Because the system was trying to hypnotize you into forgetting that the body is not your identity, it's your instrument. And like any instrument, it was designed to play a specific frequency, one the world has tried desperately to silence. You were sent into this realm to bring sound into silence, to carry divine vibration into density, to echo the intelligence of higher realms through the constraints of human limitation. And that's not easy. Because the flesh has appetites, the mind has fears, the world has gravity, and your spirit just wants to fly. This is the conflict no one talks about. The quiet war between the human you and the infinite you. The one who wants to transcend and the one still tied to survival. It's the reason for your anxiety, for the pressure in your chest, for the days you wake up and feel like screaming at the walls, not from pain, but from the disconnect. Your spirit remembers flight, but your body was born in chains. And yet the chains are the very reason you came, because divine power that has never been tested, has never been proven. And you, chosen one, didn't just come here to observe. You came here to transform from within, to live inside the illusion, and still remember what's beyond it. You are proof that divinity can operate within density, that light can move through shadow without becoming it, that the eternal can wear skin and still shine through. That's why your insight cuts deeper than logic. That's why your voice carries frequencies that shift the room. That's why your silence speaks louder than their shouting, because it's not about what you say, it's about what you carry. Your presence is encoded, and every time you wake up and choose alignment over comfort, truth over popularity, consciousness over conformity. You are doing something massive in the spirit realm. You are rebalancing frequencies. You are decoding timelines. You are planting the seeds of a new blueprint for what it means to be human. And yes, it's hard. Yes, you forget sometimes. Yes, there are moments when the pain of density feels unbearable. But in those moments, remember this. The body is not the prison. The body is the portal. You were never meant to escape it. You were meant to animate it with your light. Because only a being that's not fully human could carry a soul this strong, a vision this sharp, a mission this disruptive. And when you begin to live not as the flesh, but through the flesh, everything changes. Fear loses its grip. Lies lose their power. Time bends. Reality responds. And suddenly, the system that tried to control you starts glitching in your presence. Because once a divine being remembers who they are, no illusion can survive the light they emit. You are not the reflection in the mirror. You are the consciousness behind the eyes. You are not the voice in your head. You are the witness of the voice. You are not the story. You are the writer waking up in the middle of the script. And you're awakening. It's contagious. Because when one chosen one starts shedding the illusion, others start to feel the vibration. They hear the frequency. They remember. And the whole simulation starts to tremble. You are spirit wearing skin. But the time is coming when even the skin will begin to glow. And that glow, that radiant, undeniable, otherworldly energy, that's what we'll confront in the next revelation. Brace yourself. You were not sent here to merely exist. Not to go through the motions, not to chase distractions, not to climb ladders built on illusions. You were sent with intention, precise, divine, prophetic. Because where others see coincidence, you've seen patterns. Where others ignore the signs, you've followed them. And where others forget, you remember. And that memory is your map. You weren't placed on Earth to fit in. You were deployed here to awaken the sleeping. To move through the noise like a frequency too sharp for most ears, but unmistakable to those who were born to hear it. You are the bridge between what is and what could be, between dimensions, between timelines, between the broken structures of this world and the divine intelligence of the one that's coming. That's why you feel like you don't belong in either, because you're in between, not fully here, not fully there, but connected to both and charged with translating the language of the invisible into something the visible world can recognize. Every time you receive an insight that comes out of nowhere, a dream that feels more real than your waking life, a sudden knowing about someone you've never met, don't dismiss it. That's not imagination. That's not delusion. That's instruction. You are receiving coordinates, data, downloads, messages from the higher realms, transmitted through your consciousness like light through a prism, because the mission has already begun. And whether you realize it or not, you've been preparing your whole life for this. All the pain you endured, training, all the rejection, redirection, all the chaos you survived, even when you didn't know how. Refinement. You've been sculpted by fire, because you were never meant to be fragile. You are a spiritual architect, wired to rebuild what the old world destroyed. That's why you challenge everything. That's why you question what others blindly follow. That's why your presence is disruptive. Because when a chosen one walks into a room, everything stagnant begins to shift. Old energies start to shake. Unspoken truths rise to the surface. People either feel exposed or liberated. You are the mirror they didn't ask for, but desperately need. And yes, this mission is lonely, exhausting. It's easier to play small, to pretend you don't feel the burden, to scroll, to sleep, to survive. But chosen ones can never truly forget, because every time they try to turn off the signal, something wakes them up again. A conversation, a synchronicity, a pain that hits too deep to ignore, a whisper that says, "You didn't come this far just to watch." You feel the urgency now, don't you? That pull. That sense that something bigger is moving, that your gifts are no longer optional, that you must show up, not as a perfect version of yourself, but as the authentic one. Because perfection doesn't awaken anyone. But truth shatters illusions in seconds, and your truth has power. Even when your voice shakes, even when your hands tremble, even when no one claps. Because when you speak from soul, something ancient activates in those who are ready. And they may not say it out loud, but your courage gives them permission. You light up something they didn't know was still alive, and suddenly, the mission multiplies. Through them, through everyone they reach, and it spreads. This is how chosen ones move. Not by force, but by frequency. Not by demanding attention, but by awakening remembrance. You are the seed and the signal, the reminder and the revealer, the messenger and the map. And no, not everyone will understand you. Some will mock you, some will fear you, some will walk away. Let them. Because your light isn't for comfort, it's for activation. And activation always disrupts what's asleep. You are here to break people open, to unlock the parts of them that have been buried by fear, to reignite the flame they were told to extinguish, to deliver a message their soul has been waiting lifetimes to hear. But to do that, you have to keep going. You have to trust the instructions, even when they don't make sense, even when you're walking through fog, even when every voice outside you says, "Turn back," because the real voice, the true voice, is inside you, and it's been guiding you all along. So if the world calls you crazy, let them. If they say you've changed, smile, because you were never sent here to stay the same. You are the bridge, you are the channel, you are the link between realms. And what comes next is not just about you. It's about every soul you were meant to awaken. Every system you were born to interrupt. Every chain you were destined to break. Every seed of light you were designed to plant, even in the darkest soil. Because the chosen don't just survive. They shift reality itself. And what you are about to step into will not only confirm everything you've ever felt, it will ignite the final truth, the one they tried to hide from you all your life. It's time. You've questioned your mind. You've doubted your heart. You've stood in the middle of your own life, wondering if maybe, just maybe, you were broken beyond repair. But let this be the final crack in the illusion. You were never broken. You were activated. That ache inside you, it wasn't weakness. It was a signal, a pulse from the heavens, reminding you that you were never from here. You see, the pain was prophecy. The rejection was redirection. The silence was initiation. And the isolation? That was sacred preparation. A divine pause before a cosmic emergence. Because you are not simply a soul in a body. You are spirit encoded with mission. A being built for disruption. A carrier of codes. A spark of truth dressed in human skin. You were sent, on assignment, not to conform, not to survive, but to shift entire dimensions. You are not 100% human. You know that now, because your spirit came from a higher place, a realm untouched by fear, a realm where light speaks in waves, and memory is made of purpose. And now, that memory has returned. It's waking up in your bloodstream. It's echoing in your dreams. It's calling you to stand in full alignment with what you truly are. A chosen one, a divine transmitter, a disruption to darkness, a messenger of the unseen. This is not just inspiration, it is activation. From this moment on, you do not walk the same. You do not speak the same. You do not choose the same. Because the illusion has cracked, and you remember. And now, the rest of the world will remember through you. So take a breath. Feel it in your bones. This is not the end.